My name is Elijah Sterling. I'm 76 years old, retired from teaching geography and astronomy at the old Tech Magnet School, and I've lived in Silver Spring, Maryland, ever since I married my Aaliyah. Life, as I've learned over these decades, doesn't warn you before it turns upside down. It hits you when you least expect it. It was a Friday night, around 10 o'clock. I was on the porch in my old rocking chair, sipping a cup of sweet, strong coffee, the kind only folks down here know how to brew, while staring at the stars. A cool breeze carried the scent of jasmine across the yard, and for a moment everything felt perfect. Then the phone rang. "Hello, Elijah, my son." The voice on the other end was trembling. It was my mother-in-law, Mrs. Imelda. She's 90, sharp as a tack most of the time, but that night her voice broke my heart before she even spoke. "Forgive me for what I have to tell you." I froze, coffee halfway to my lips. "What is it, Mrs. Imelda? Are you okay?" "No, it's worse than anything you can imagine. Lala, your girl, she's cheating on you." The world stopped. I nearly dropped the phone. 47 years of marriage, a lifetime together, and my wife was cheating. I could barely breathe. My mind raced, twisting, refusing to accept what I just heard. "And it's not just anyone," she continued, voice shaking. "It's Nathaniel, your closest friend. I saw them today at the mall, kissing." The ground seemed to vanish beneath me. Nathaniel wasn't family by blood, but he had been my brother in every way that mattered. We'd been friends since I was 8, partners in mischief, in life, in all the moments that counted. I felt sick, confused, my heart pounding like it might burst from my chest. I couldn't sleep that night. I replayed everything in my head, their smiles, our coffee mornings, the way she kissed me on the forehead every day. Was it all a lie? By morning, I knew I had to see it for myself. She said she was going to the beauty parlor, then the farmer's market. I followed, keeping my distance, my hands gripping the wheel like I was steering through quicksand. She drove past the salon, through the city streets, and stopped at Nathaniel's apartment building. 3 hours she was inside. Sitting there in my car, staring at that building, memories surged. Nathaniel and I, fishing in the river as kids, stealing peaches from Mrs. Hall's orchard, playing flag football on the empty field, dreaming about the future. My heart was heavy, confused, and aching. I waited in the car, heart hammering. Every second felt like an eternity. My mind ran wild. What if Mrs. Imelda was wrong? What if it wasn't what I thought? But deep down, a knot of dread had already formed in my stomach. Eventually, Aaliyah emerged from the building. She looked normal, smiling slightly, carrying a small bag, nothing out of place, or so it seemed at first. My stomach twisted. I followed her from a distance, down the street, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. My brain screamed questions. Why would she go there? What could possibly be happening inside Nathaniel's apartment? I remembered the first time I met Nathaniel. It was 1957. I was 8, he was 10. A shy boy, quiet, often teased because he had no parents. I took him under my wing. We fished together, played football, ran through the streets of Silver Spring laughing like there was no tomorrow. Over the decades, our friendship had become unbreakable. Now, the thought that the woman I had spent nearly half a century with could betray me with him, it felt like the walls of my life were collapsing. I parked a block away and watched as she left the building, nothing suspicious. She smiled at the mailman, waved at a neighbor, just normal, but my chest was tight, my thoughts racing. The only thing I could do was go in. Inside Nathaniel's apartment, the air was thick with the scent of old books, faint cologne, and something else, something comforting, familiar. He was sitting in his favorite armchair, looking frail, almost fragile, but alive. My pulse quickened. Was Mrs. Imelda wrong, or had I misunderstood? "Hey, Elijah," Nathaniel said quietly, looking up. There was that same old calm, that steady, reassuring tone I'd known my entire life. For a moment, all my anger and fear melted into relief. Nothing was happening here, nothing at all. I slumped into the chair across from him, heart still racing, mind still spinning. We talked about the usual things. The weather, his garden, small-town gossip. Every time I glanced toward the door, I half expected to see Aaliyah and Nathaniel in some secret moment, but it never came. The relief was almost painful, like the tight grip of fear finally releasing. Still, questions lingered. Why had Mrs. Imelda called like that? What had she seen? I needed answers, and I knew there was only one way to get them. That night I couldn't sleep. My thoughts were a storm. Childhood memories, decades of friendship, 47 years of marriage, they all collided, blurring lines between fear and love. I realized that life had a way of testing you, of putting you on the edge, and I had just been pushed to it. The next morning I tried to act normal, but inside my mind was a whirlwind. Breakfast was quiet, Aaliyah humming as she made her coffee, biscuits fresh from the oven. I watched her, searching for a hint, a clue, anything that could confirm or deny what Mrs. Imelda had said, but she seemed herself. Sweet, loving, ordinary. I decided I had to confront her, but carefully. I couldn't let suspicion ruin what we'd built together. 47 years of marriage wasn't something I could risk over a rumor. Yet curiosity gnawed at me like a persistent ache. I think I might take a walk today, I said casually. Just clear my head. All right, dear, she replied, kissing my forehead. That little gesture, it almost broke me. How could I even think of doubting her? I walked through Silver Spring's familiar streets, replaying Mrs. Imelda's words over and over. Lala, she's cheating on you with Nathaniel. Every word a knife twisting deeper. My childhood, my best friend, my wife, all the pillars of my life shaken in an instant. Then it hit me. Maybe it wasn't what I thought. Mrs. Imelda was old, her eyes failing. Maybe she had misinterpreted what she saw. My relief battled my suspicion, and the tension in my chest made me dizzy. Later that afternoon, I found myself parked near Nathaniel's building again. Memories came flooding back, races down the creek, stolen peaches, snowball fights in the winter, nights staring at stars with him pointing out Orion, Cassiopeia, the Big Dipper. I realized something. No matter what had happened today, Nathaniel wasn't just a friend, he was family. The thought that anyone could corrupt that, it made my blood boil. Finally, I made a decision. I would confront Nathaniel not with anger but with honesty. No secrets, no misunderstandings, no shadows. I needed to know the truth straight from him, and maybe, just maybe, I could also understand what Mrs. Imelda thought she saw. I rang the doorbell, my hand trembling. The door creaked open, and there he was, frail but smiling. That same calm, steady smile. My heart pounded. Every instinct told me to demand answers, to confront, to accuse. But something in his eyes made me pause. Elijah, he said softly, you look like you've seen a ghost. I swallowed hard. I need to ask you something important. He nodded, his expression gentle. Ask, friend. You know you can, and in that moment I realized the next few minutes could either destroy everything or finally set my mind at peace. I followed him inside, my heart hammering like a drum. The apartment smelled faintly of old books and polished wood, the same way it had when we were kids exploring every corner of his house after school. Nathaniel gestured me to sit, his hands folded calmly on his lap. I saw Ulya today at your place, I said, my voice tighter than I intended. Mrs. Imelda, she said. My words trailed off, heavy with suspicion and fear. Nathaniel's eyes widened, and then he laughed softly, almost pityingly. Elijah, you're letting an old woman's imagination run wild. Your Ulya, she hasn't been here today, or yesterday, or the day before. I felt my knees weaken, the tension in my chest slowly loosening. Then what did Mrs. Imelda see? I asked, my voice trembling. He sighed, standing to fetch a photo album from the shelf. I think she misinterpreted something. She's old, her eyesight isn't what it used to be, and she's always imagining the worst to protect her loved ones. I stared at him, trying to absorb what he was saying. Could it really be that simple? After all these years of trust, the mere suggestion of betrayal felt like a punch to the gut. He opened the album and handed it to me. Inside were pictures of our childhood adventures, fishing trips, birthdays, school plays. And then a photo that made my throat tighten. Ulya and Nathaniel at a community fundraiser a few weeks ago, standing close, laughing, holding plates of food. Nothing inappropriate, just a moment of shared joy. It was that Mrs. Imelda saw, Nathaniel explained. She didn't know the context. She saw you two laughing and assumed. His voice trailed off, letting me fill in the blanks. I sank back into the chair, letting relief wash over me, mixed with lingering guilt. How easily our minds could twist reality when fear and love collided. I realized then that life had a way of testing us, not just with loss, but with doubt, suspicion, and the fragility of perception. Nathaniel smiled gently. Elijah, the people we love don't need to prove their loyalty every day. Sometimes all they need is our trust. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. For the first time that day, I felt clarity. The storm had passed, leaving me with a renewed appreciation for Ulya, for Nathaniel, and for the fragile, precious bonds that hold a lifetime together. Then he leaned closer, whispering in that same soft voice that had comforted me through decades of friendship. Now let's talk about something far more important. I leaned in, curiosity mixing with lingering tension. Nathaniel's eyes, usually so full of mischief and warmth, now held a quiet seriousness that made me sit up straighter. I need to tell you something, Elijah, he began. Something I should have told you a long time ago. My stomach nodded. What is it, Nathaniel? He hesitated, then took a deep breath. It's about my health, and it's serious. The doctor says I don't have much time left, weeks, maybe a month or two at most. My chest tightened, and I felt a cold wave of fear crash over me. Weeks. No, that can't be. We can find another doctor, another treatment. There has to be something. My voice shook, panic taking over. Nathaniel shook his head slowly, a resigned sadness in his eyes. I've seen 3 oncologists, Elijah. All said the same thing. It's aggressive, advanced when discovered. There's nothing more to do except make the time I have left bearable. I felt a mix of anger, helplessness, and grief all at once. But Nathaniel, you can't just give up. We've faced everything together since we were kids. You can't leave me like this. He gave a faint, weak smile. I'm not giving up, friend. I want to live these last weeks on my terms, surrounded by the people I love, with dignity, without machines, without pain. The words hit me harder than I expected. Not the illness itself, but the thought of losing him, the brother who had been by my side since I was 8, was unbearable. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. We'll do it your way, Nathaniel, I said finally, my hand gripping his. We'll make sure these last days are full of life, love, and memories. You won't be alone, not while I'm here. Nathaniel nodded, a mix of relief and gratitude passing over his frail face. That's all I've ever wanted, Jeremiah. Thank you, and in that moment I realized that life's most precious battles aren't always about winning against fate. They're about choosing love, choosing presence, and cherishing the time we have with the people who matter most. We spent the next morning preparing everything. Alya transformed the guest room into a warm, comforting space, soft blankets, pillows arranged just right, framed photos of old memories on the walls, and even a small telescope by the window so Nathaniel could watch the stars, something he loved since childhood. I packed a small basket with his favorite foods, chicken broth, caramel pudding, the little treats he always smiled at, and set aside a few books I thought might distract him from the pain. When we arrived at his apartment, the silence hit me first. I rang the doorbell, knocked several times, but no answer. My heart thumped painfully. I pushed the door open with the key Nathaniel had given me long ago, stepping inside cautiously. The apartment smelled faintly of dust and old wood, but the real fear was in the empty air. I called his name once, twice, nothing. My mind raced. Had something happened overnight? Then, in the bedroom, I saw him. Lying in bed, eyes closed, still and pale. For a moment I felt like I'd arrived too late, but then, a shallow breath, a slight twitch, he was alive. He opened his eyes slowly, and that familiar, quiet strength I knew all these decades flickered back. "Friend," he murmured, his voice weak. "What time is it?" "It's 9 in the morning, I said, relief washing over me. "You scared us." I took strong pain medicine last night," he said, attempting a faint smile. "Makes me woozy like this." Alya came in then, her nurse instincts taking over. She helped him sit up, adjusted pillows behind his back, checked his temperature. "You have a fever," she said gently. "Did you take your antibiotics?" Nathaniel nodded, and then his eyes met mine. "You came to get me, didn't you?" A smile, despite tears threatening to spill, broke across my face. "Of course I did." "You're coming home with us." That day, as we packed his things, organized his personal items, and brought over photo albums from his closet, I realized just how much history and memories Nathaniel had preserved, the entire story of our lives together, captured in old, faded photographs. It struck me then, this wasn't just a friend we were saving, it was a living archive of decades of love, laughter, and brotherhood. Nathaniel lingered in the doorway, leaning on Alya for support, dressed but fragile, the effort evident in every movement. I opened one of the old photo albums, and memories poured back us as kids by the river, high school graduations, birthday parties, vacations, all meticulously captured. One picture from 1967 showed us at 16, arms over each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. On the back, someone had written, "Brothers Forever." The weight of reality hit me hard. Losing Nathaniel wasn't just losing a friend, it was losing a brother, a part of my own life's history. He noticed me holding the album. "You found my treasure," he said, voice trembling. "Why keep all these?" I asked, flipping to the 1967 photo. "Because you all are my family," he whispered. "I never had kids, never passed my blood, but I held on to the family I was given. That's you, Elijah and Alya and Joshua. That's always been enough." I couldn't stop the tears anymore. "Do you remember the day you almost ran with that gang downtown? I gave you that lecture, saved your life." He laughed softly. "How could I forget? You always had my back, friend." I closed the album and said, "Now it's my turn. We're going to make sure your remaining time is the best it can be." Nathaniel shook his head with a serene, knowing smile. "I've accepted it. No more chemo, no more fighting treatments. I want comfort, love, dignity. I want to live my last days with those I care about, not machines or poisons." I glanced at Alya and she nodded. She understood. "It's not too much," I reassured him, "and we'll give you exactly that. we moved everything to our home. Nathaniel's room became a cozy sanctuary with the telescope by the window, old photos, and personal mementos. That night after everyone left, he held my hand, fragile and cold. "Thank you, friend, for everything. I don't have much time, but I want my last days filled with love." I held back tears. "We'll make sure of it. And you'll always be with us in the stories, in the stars, in everything." Nathaniel lingered in the doorway, leaning on Ulya for support, dressed but fragile, the effort evident in every movement. I opened one of the old photo albums, and memories poured back us as kids by the river, high school graduations, birthday parties, vacations, all meticulously captured. One picture from 1967 showed us at 16, arms over each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. On the back, someone had written, "Brothers forever." The weight of reality hit me hard. Losing Nathaniel wasn't just losing a friend, it was losing a brother, a part of my own life's history. He noticed me holding the album. "You found my treasure," he said, voice trembling. "Why keep all these?" I asked, flipping to the 1967 photo. "Because you all are my family," he whispered. "I never had kids, never passed my blood, but I held on to the family I was given. That's you, Elijah and Ulya and Joshua. That's always been enough." I couldn't stop the tears anymore. "Do you remember the day you almost ran with that gang downtown? I gave you that lecture, saved your life." He laughed softly. "How could I forget? You always had my back, friend." I closed the album and said, "Now it's my turn. We're going to make sure your remaining time is the best it can be." Nathaniel shook his head with a serene, knowing smile. "I've accepted it. No more chemo, no more fighting treatments. I want comfort, love, dignity. I want to live my last days with those I care about, not machines or poisons." I glanced at Ulya and she nodded. She understood. "It's not too much," I reassured him, "and we'll give you exactly that." We moved everything to our home. Nathaniel's room became a cozy sanctuary with the telescope by the window, old photos, and personal mementos. That night after everyone left, he held my hand, fragile and cold. "Thank you, friend, for everything. I don't have much time, but I want my last days filled with love." I held back tears. "We'll make sure of it. And you'll always be with us in the stories, in the stars, in everything." The evening before it happened, the sky was unusually clear. Nathaniel asked me to bring the telescope closer. He didn't have much strength left, his breath was shallow, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Help me sit up," he asked. I gently lifted him as Ulya adjusted his pillows. He looked through the telescope and smiled softly. "There, Orion." Just like all those nights when we were boys, I stood beside him, watching the same constellation. "The hunter," I said quietly, "still watching over us." He turned his head toward me with weak eyes but a peaceful expression. "I'm not afraid anymore. I've had the honor of being loved by a true family. Thank you, Elijah, for giving me what I spent my whole life searching for." I took his hand gently. "Rest easy, brother. We're right here." He squeezed my hand just once, faint but full of meaning. In that moment, he let out a long exhale and he didn't take another. The room went silent. I stood there frozen. My best friend, the boy who defended me behind the water fountain, the man who stood beside me at my wedding, the one who helped raise my son, was gone. Clara walked in just then, noticed the stillness, and whispered, "He's with the stars now, isn't he?" I nodded, tears finally breaking free. "Yes, sweetheart, he finally returned to the sky." The funeral was simple, just how he wanted. A small wooden casket, photographs from his life, wildflowers from our backyard. I spoke last. "There are people who leave this world with money, status, or trophies. Nathaniel left with something greater, love. He may not have had children, but every person he ever helped carried a part of him forward. And if you look up tonight, remember there's a star that shines for him." That night I sat on the same porch where this story began. Same chair, same coffee, same jasmine breeze. Only this time, instead of feeling betrayed and broken, I looked up and whispered, "Thank you for leading us back to what truly matters." Sometimes, life breaks us not to destroy us, but to guide us toward the love we forgot to appreciate. If you've watched this far, tell me in the comments, have you ever lost someone who wasn't blood but felt like family? Share your story. I read every single one. And if this touched your heart, hit subscribe, because on this channel, we keep stories alive. Stories that remind us of what's real, stories like Nathaniel's. Don't just let this video end, let it live inside you. Let it remind you to cherish the people who stand by you, even when the world doesn't see them as family. I'll see you tomorrow night, same porch, another story. Till then, keep your eyes on the stars and your heart on those who never leave your side.